The Confound Millennial is brought to you by the Cinelux Collective. Need drone footage?
Got it.
Need promo video for your next event?
Got it.
Are you a realtor or business owner ready to enter into the future? They got you there too. With their Matterport camera, they can turn any building into a virtual tour. Realtors. That means that you can give tours of properties to anyone throughout the world. And for small businesses, I'm telling you, this is the future of advertisement. So check them out at CineluxCollective.com. That's CINELUXE collective.com. And welcome to the Confound Millennial, starring Steven Stirvin Michaels and featuring Luke Pilgrim and Brad Kennedy of Sozo Bear Films. I didn't forget your names. I forgot whether I wanted to say Sozo Bear Films first or your names.
No,
it was like Sozo Bear Films of Luke and Brad. I'm like, that doesn't really make sense.
It's okay. I think it worked great.
Yeah. Like
so how you guys doing today?
Good. Really good.
Yeah.
You know, I'm excited to talk to y'all. I've got a bunch of questions. Like I told you, I didn't do too much studying. Like I find there's a bit of a difference between studying and stalking.
Yeah.
A fine line.
With you guys, I studied up before I came into this, and but with Boz, from the bassist from the band Capstan, the last interview I did, I found myself totally stalking him.
When did you realize that you were stalking him? Like, were you like doing research? And
I think it was when I was
too far.
I think it was when I was trying to find a picture to put on the Instagram, because I didn't want to be like, yo, dog, like, want to send me a selfie that I can use for this. And so I just did a deep dive into his Instagram and Facebook. And it was like, once I realized I was like 3 years back, I was like, okay.
Too far.
I've gone too far here. I
went,
took his profile picture through
that's
that.
That's kind of like the worst nightmare thing. Like maybe you're on Instagram, like say you're looking at an ex-girlfriend's page or something. You scroll back years and you accidentally like it. Now you're a psycho. Like you're and it's like 2 a.m. That's a crazy person. They're like, what? You like
it's never not 2 a.m.
And they know that they know you're like looking at all their photos, because why did you like one from like 2 years ago?
Yeah. Crazy stuff.
Speaking about, I was going to say speaking about crazy stuff, but there's some crazy stuff I want to talk about later. Okay. First, I want to jump straight into it. Who are you guys? Because a lot of my fans might not know. A lot of them do, because you guys are local legends around here. Everybody in the world from this small area knows the name Luke Pilgrim.
Oh, wow. Man. Well, I'm Luke.
And I'm Brad, and, together we started Sozo Bear Films in 2016. We met at the University of North Georgia, and we're located in Dahlonega. Luke's obviously from Cleveland.
Yep, I'm a legend, apparently. So.
I'm from Dade County, Georgia, which most people, if they don't know, is right below Chattanooga, Tennessee. We're the northwest corner of the state. I came to college here in Dahlonega, met Luke, and then became best friends.
Yeah, I like I was telling you before the podcast, I went back to school when I was 25. So, if people do know me, they probably knew me from playing music. I did that for a long time, most of my life, and then at 25, I decided I want to go back to school. I looked at UNG, and it was North Georgia College and State University back then, like when me and Brad started there. But they were offering a film program that, like, I'd never, obviously, back when I graduated high school, back in the old days, they didn't offer that. So I was like, well, that looks pretty interesting. I had been doing our music videos for my band last November. I had been doing our music videos anyways, like directing and editing those. And I knew I really liked it and kind of had an eye for that kind of thing. And my parents owned a movie rental store growing up. I just always loved movies, and was always deep into that kind of watching film and storytelling. Even when I was like writing songs, I just loved the idea of storytelling. So went back to school for that at 25 and ran into Brad. We did our senior capstone project together. So that was pretty cool because no one had really done a joint exhibition before. Because we were art majors. Like since then it's changed and it's a communications degree. But back then we were fine art majors in the film studies. And so we wrote a movie together called The Apology Service and did a Kickstarter campaign, and raised a little over $5,000 and shot that movie. And that was kind of what started Sozo Bear Films.
Mm-hmm.
That was our first like real collaboration. And like after we graduated, the art department hired us to do a commercial for them, like what we call docu-promos. And that was our first project, our first official client at Sozo Bear Films.
Because I remember we finished the apology service and we had this premiere in November right before graduating, and it was a huge success. A lot of people came. We maxed it out. Seating on campus. I think some people were even standing.
Mm-hmm.
But a couple of days before, we were coming up with okay, we can't just say Luke Pilgrim and Brad Kennedy presents this movie. It's could we come up with a production company name? The 11th hour trying to figure out something to throw up on screen, and we're just hanging out. There's this dungeon-esque area that we used to work at all the time at UNG. In their whatchamacallit, like sculpture. It was like this closet and this 3D design room.
It was a basement for sure. Yeah,
building,
no windows.
Just computer lab, and we would always be there all the time working on either our movies before the apology service, that film, any other stuff we were doing, writing scripts. But
it sounds like the place to work. Hold on, we're going to go edit these videos.
Yeah.
We'll be down in our freaking lair.
Yeah, we would be there way late at night.
3 a.m. There was no distractions, that's for sure. I mean, there wasn't even a poster on the wall. That place was just bare walls and no windows.
Yeah, but the craziest thing was we were just coming up, throwing any names out there, and nothing was sticking. We were oh, maybe something with, animals, doing name generations and stuff like that. And
we tried mashing up our names.
Yeah.
I mean, and what was crazy is a couple days before that, what led to this was I used to work at the bookstore on campus, and they found a little kitten outside of their house. One of my coworkers did, and they were asking if I wanted it. So my wife and I went and looked at this cute little cat. And of course we were yeah, we'll take it. We took her home, little black kitten, and we already had a cat named Sozo. So Sozo's obviously the queen of the castle. So when we took this other little black cat home, she just wasn't having it. I mean, she went insane. She hated it, and she was super. I mean, she freaked out. She wouldn't even let us pick her up and stuff. So Brad was well, he decided he would take the cat.
Yeah, which is such a crazy thing because I remember him and his wife Carrie brought Bear, before she, I guess, officially was called Bear, into the dungeon, editing lab. And they were late, to come in for me and Luke to edit the apology service, and I was a little annoyed about it. I remember it. And then, they brought this cat, and I was for real, a cat? And then 2 days later, I'm yeah, this is my cat now. I was yeah, I'll take her, and I took her on. They had actually named Bear because of some YouTube video where this girl's get away from me, Bear. Bear.
I don't know if you remember that, but this girl's yelling at a bear.
Oh yeah.
And she's going Bear. And so I thought that was hilarious. Yeah. But Bear kind of looked like this little black bear too.
Yeah, for sure. So yeah, we have these 2 cats now, and both of us have one, and somehow we're Sozo Bear. Okay. And then Luke quickly, as many compliments as we get for our logo, the fact that it was probably compiled within 5 minutes and pieced together, it's just so like one of those serendipitous like moments where everything just came together.
You can
totally understand that.
It was crazy because obviously people listening can't see, but we have a big Sozo Bear logo on the wall.
It'll be on the Instagram if you want to check it out for episode 67.
So that we were like painting that the other night. We used a projector to put it up on the wall. My wife was helping me paint it, and I was thinking like, this is so bizarre that this giant, it's a big logo that we're painting. That like he said, I made it in Photoshop in like a few minutes. It wasn't even something we put a whole lot of thought into at the time, but it became definitely what we used to brand our business because we put it on everything, and when any kind of like funny meme type image we're making or any kind of shirts, or if we're making a movie poster or if it's something for a client and it's like a thumbnail for the video, it always has the Sozo Bear logo in there. And so it was just it's very surreal to think about us sitting in that tiny little room, and I made it so quick, from in Photoshop. Just it was gonna be.
And
just
now
a
it's
mock-up.
just this big deal.
Yeah, now it's the thing we use. It's what we use. It was
on my t-shirt.
It's on Brad's shirt right now.
It's what makes you feel legit. You stand behind it. It's your flag.
Right, exactly. It's our banner, and it was gonna just be like a mock-up or something. But it ended up being,
because we put it up at the premiere, and then I guess
and people laughed.
It was a far side, and people laughed, and they were like, oh, whatever, and then by a few months later, that was the company we were working at every single day.
Yeah.
It's like with my logo, Kyle had just come up with the idea live on a podcast, like way back in the teens or something, just jokingly. And I wrote up a friend of mine that was an artist. She asked me how drunk I was. And I was like, I am sober. This is what I want. Yeah. And then I got it blown up as a canvas. Ever since then, I have this sense of pride behind that image.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. Yeah.
That's cool.
So I totally get what you guys mean, and I totally love that it's named after cats too.
Yeah.
Because big member. Usually, I lock them out sometimes, but we let the podcats, as I call them,
I like that.
That's cool.
Roam wild when we do go live.
That's awesome.
The podcats.
And that's what they are, man. Anytime I leave, they're sitting in the podcast chairs looking like they're just doing their thing. The other night I had left one up and forgot that I left it up. I was like, Lily, have you been recording a podcast over here?
Posting the
It's
show.
just a bunch of
Posting
meows. Secret episode.
So let's go ahead and dive into
Okay.
it. Encounters.
Cool.
Okay.
All right. So I watched the first one of that, and I'm excited to watch the rest of them.
Awesome.
Cool.
I listened to the Atlanta Film podcast that y'all did. Do you happen to remember what number it is? In case?
I'm not sure.
Yeah,
it's called
I'm sure.
Atlanta Film Chat.
Yeah.
It was very recent. Of course, somebody could be listening to this at any time, so I don't know. I can't remember what number it was.
Yeah.
Somebody is yelling it out there that has listened to it, and but it's very recent, so you can just go look. I just searched y'all's names and Atlanta Film Chat, and it was the first thing that came up. But I was surprised to hear that really the first scene that y'all had was the abduction.
Yeah.
That was
You had that it was a commercial for something. What was it a commercial for?
It was for Sozo Bear Films.
Yeah.
Just your own commercial.
We usually do a commercial each year, where we're making client work, or a lot of times like doing these original films, but we try to make a commercial each year that's something creative and fun that sort of I guess tells what we're about, and it's expresses our brand and our style and everything like that. And this was just a really fun way to make an alien movie, kind of, but in a short commercial, something that wasn't going to take quite as much time as a full short film would take and everything. But we definitely went all out for the commercial, and it was definitely like kind of a lot of that close encounters of the third kind sort of what would you say, like homage, to
yeah.
that.
Oh,
like
for sure.
we had the vacuum cleaner moving and the TV going on and the flashing lights. All that stuff was in the commercial because the commercial was a little more parody kind of,
Does the commercial exist anywhere?
Yeah. Oh yeah, it's still there. It's still on our YouTube.
So you can watch the commercial.
Might not be on the website anymore, but
so you can watch the commercial and see the scene that is in Encounters.
Yeah, exactly. Because pretty much the commercial culminates. Grady Pork's character, he's the main actor in Encounters and the main actor in the commercial. He gets abducted, but instead of waking up in the woods like what happens in episode 1 of Encounters, he kind of is back in his kitchen at home. His mom, who's played by a completely different actress in the commercial, she's like, something's weird with my son because he's scribbling on sheets of paper. And, she's walking and, all hell breaks loose in the house. The vacuum cleaner comes alive, the TV's
lights are flickering.
And then, she looks over his shoulder and he turns around and says, our slogan, creative cinematic storytelling. And then you see the image and it's a bunch of pictures. We actually have it hanging up there of the Sozo Bear logo.
So it's basically like a bunch of pieces of paper that he's scribbling on, but when you put them all together, it makes the Sozo Bear logo. That was
gotta make sure to check that out.
That's how the commercial ends.
Kind of similar to in Close Encounters, the main character, Richard Dreyfuss's character, is constantly obsessed with, what is it, Devil's Tower, Devil's Peak. So he's.
I don't know if they call it that in the movie, but
he's carving the mashed potatoes and forming 3D sculptures, and he doesn't know what that shape is. So
and then
eventually he figures it out. Yeah.
There's other characters in the movie that are painting it or drawing it. They're all they had this telepathic image just shot into their brains by these extraterrestrials.
So we were kind of thinking for the commercial a similar thing of if someone in this world, this commercial world, didn't know what Sozo Bear Films is, but they're seeing this logo, and it's they're getting our brand kind of zapped into their heads.
Yeah, exactly.
So it was a blast. I mean, it really was a lot of fun. It felt like we were making a Steven Spielberg movie or something. It was a lot of fun to make, and the cast and the crew and our composer Philip, a lot of them reached out to us afterwards and were like, that turned out so good, why isn't this a short film? And that was when Brad and I sat down and we just started brainstorming concepts. We were like, how can we turn this into a short film? Is something salvageable from the actual commercial that we can use? And that was when we settled on keeping the abduction scene in there. We tweaked it a little in the movie, in Encounters. It's been tweaked a little. It's had some stuff added. It's lengthened a little bit for the abduction. Some of the footage was that we didn't use and stuff. And we shot an extra scene of when the trash can lid floats up and stuff like that. That was an extra scene that we shot. So we added a little bit, made a little more ominous music, but it's basically that little portion was exactly like the commercial almost.
And it's tough. I'll tell you that to take something, we've never done a project like that before where you have a scene, you have an idea already that's been filmed, you have footage, and you're like, okay, now we have to make a whole nother story around it.
Yeah, and match the tone and everything, the colors, the lighting, all that stuff needs to, and I mean, the amount of grain that's in that footage, the rest of the movie needs to kind of match what we shot that night for the commercial, Because
to me, story-wise, thinking of it, you're saying, this hard to do, and I'm thinking of it story-wise. No, you got a starting point. Yeah. But then you started talking about all the technical stuff and making everything match. And that sounds like a nightmare.
We shot the commercial maybe in June of 2018, and once we had the full idea of the script for Encounters, we went back on location and shot. And that was probably August. A couple of months had passed at that point, so it's making sure your actor's hair is still the same length that you could look at it and be like, oh, that's the same character the same night. There were a lot of little difficult things, making sure the costume is exactly the same.
Yeah, making sure he still has that shirt or whatever,
I've run into stuff in the past while I was working with a youth group of mine where people would come up with characters and eventually get rid of the costume. Just because they're clearing out the closet, like, I won't need that again. And then I call them up, hey, do you still have that Underwoman costume you came up with? Like, no, of course not. I threw that away yesterday.
Yeah.
And of course it was yesterday.
Yeah.
It was always yesterday. But, so, Encounters is an anthology, kind of a modern day Twilight Zone type deal. Black Mirror-esque. And you already have down all of the first season, or as far as the storyline goes, correct?
Yeah. Outlined.
Outlined.
Like we're working on the script still for 2 and 3, episodes 2 and 3. Like they're written, but they're definitely still in that final stages where we're kind of rewriting and everything. But the end of the season has been outlined, but we haven't written those yet. But yeah, I would say I feel like it was kind of like Brad and I kept having a bunch of different ideas that we thought, these are cool concepts. They all can work within that theme of be careful what you wish for.
Because I think that was the big thing too when coming up with that first episode. We had to figure out, okay, what's the theme of it, and then we kind of figured it out to be careful what you wish for. And then, like Luke was saying,
where did that come from?
I would say,
or just out of a midnight brainstorm.
Yeah, I don't remember exactly, but it's even kind of crazier because we took the commercial, turned it into this short film, and then at that time we weren't thinking about making it into a series. We were just going to make a short film, just like we were just going to make a commercial, and then we were just going to make a short film. And then after we were kind of in the editing process of the short film is when we were like, why don't we try to turn this into a series,
Soon it'll be just one movie.
Yeah. So, because I think what we talked about, and every filmmaker is sort of like working their way up to making features, or, most people they want to make a feature-length film. Which is very expensive, very difficult to achieve. We're working with someone right now on our first feature. Someone approached us about that they had written a movie and they wanted us to direct it and everything. So we're actually working with someone on directing and producing our first feature length. But
congratulations!
Thank you. Yeah, we're definitely excited about that. It's going to be a really cool project. But with Encounters, we were thinking. We kind of joked around about, like, could we make a bunch of short films and, like, piece them all together to make it the length of a feature? Because we were like, we could do that. Like, we could feasibly shoot a bunch of short films. It's just a lot harder when you're trying to shoot that feature length and you're out there for 20 or 30 days of filming instead of 3 or 4 or whatever. So that was sort of like the joke initially. We were like, we could do this. And then it became more of a reality when we were like, well, maybe we can do that. We can take these short episodes of what we ended up calling Encounters, and when you watch them all together, it's like you've got around an hour of content or whatever. So it's kind of like a feature, You've got enough to sit there and you can binge all the episodes, and it's like you've watched a full-length movie.
Now, Encounters, is it strictly like alien encounters or ghosts, squatches? Please tell me there's a squatch.
It's definitely aliens, but, obviously aliens can take a lot of different forms, So the second episode focuses on, like, this alien plant.
I mean, some people think Bigfoot is an alien. So,
see, he's siding with me. Chupacabra is from outer space.
Yeah.
That's all I got to say.
Exactly. So there's definitely, like... because there's one episode we want to do that's like a monster film, and there's like, I don't know, if you listen to the Atlanta Film Chat, we talked about that. Like there's going to be an episode with cavemen who run into some ETs. So
it's not always the little gray men, because we did.
But
that
I like
in the
that
first
you
episode.
used the grays for the first one.
Well, I feel like it's such you gotta like ease people in. You don't take them to the really strange part of aliens, and they're like, this makes no sense at all. This doesn't look like an alien to me.
Right.
They kind of want something familiar. You kind of bring them into your world, and then you
like
can
when you're
start
starting
exploring.
something out like this, you want it to be like, this is an alien. This
Yeah.
isn't something off of Crypt TV. This is an alien.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because with things with creatures in it, the creature really sets the tone.
Yeah, like Stranger Things.
Yeah, it's like you want to make sure that people understand this is an alien show, and then later on you can start to deviating. Same thing, like take for instance like Black Mirror. For first 2 seasons or something, all the episodes are so bleak and depressing at the end, and but eventually they start bringing happier endings and stuff like that. They gotta set the tone and kind of follow it for a little bit before you start deviating.
There's sort of a format that
Yeah.
they're trying to, and that's sort of what we're doing with Encounters too. I mean, most of the episodes end pretty bleakly. I mean, they're pretty.
Downer note.
It's a dark note for the ending usually, and
I'll tell you that ending had me thinking more about it than I should have. Because I'm driving to work after I watched that, and I was just like, does the kid look the same to himself? What do the parents just see?
Yeah.
Like what's going on here?
I know. I'm glad that you thought like that, though,
Yeah.
because I think that's what we want. We want people to definitely question it, and to be. That's like one of my favorite things is like leaving the theater and in the car on the way home dissecting it.
Exactly.
Talking about it.
They're not good by any chance because I've only done 3 of them so far. But I'm trying to start doing my own movie review podcast.
Oh, cool.
But I want to capture less of a review like, you should see this, you should not, this sucked, or
Right.
whatever, and capture that ride home conversation.
Yeah, exactly. Like
That's always been...
That's the best.
Those are some of the best, like for sure.
That's my favorite part of going to the movie.
Yes,
Oh, yeah.
absolutely.
So when I do those podcasts, I tell them, and we've even done it at a time where I saw the movie one day and my buddy saw a movie on the other day. I was like, do not talk to anyone about this movie. Do not
Right.
say a word about this movie until we meet up.
Are you gonna do anywhere you watch it and then do it like immediately after?
Yeah, we did that with Detective Pikachu. My girlfriend and I went and saw that and immediately came back.
That's cool. You know what? You should record it in the car, like on the way home.
That's the only thing is I ride in the redneck mobile that has no AC and one window
the
that
windows
rolls down.
would be pretty noisy.
Yeah, so it definitely was a thought, but then that thought got thrown out the window almost immediately.
Yeah, that's a cool concept though. I like that.
a lot.
But I love anything that gets you thinking afterwards.
Oh yeah, for sure.
I mean, that's what builds a fan base. Is you want people to keep coming back for more, figure out what was this,
Right.
And
even if they don't answer it.
yeah,
One of the biggest things about movies in general, short films, long, whatever, is making the audience ask the question why.
yeah. Like what Luke said, it's like I consider it a success if someone's like trying to think about, okay, how does this world work? What's the logic to this? Is the kid seeing his parent? He sees them as how they are, but they, what are they seeing with him? What do they?
Right. You can tell they
what
see him
happens
as like a
next? Yeah.
human, like
Yeah.
he's not one of the aliens now. They see him, but
I guess we're spoiling this if someone
Yeah.
hasn't seen it.
Spoiler
but
alert.
yeah, sorry.
that's okay.
It's a 7-minute movie.
Yeah.
So you can start at the
Well,
beginning. And
that's the thing too. Is like, can you make someone think in 7 minutes or 5 minutes or 12 minutes? Like, can you tell a story in that short amount of time? And that's what we really love about short films, and like why we're making it a short film anthology instead of trying to do 30-minute or hour-long episodes. Not just because it would be tough and more expensive, but because we really like the art form of making shorts.
And you guys were talking on the that other podcast that I had listened to about how not a lot of people really understand why make a short film over a feature.
Yeah.
And I really appreciate the people that make short films because I have ADHD and I cannot pay attention to a movie for anything. But I can sit down and watch a 7-8 minute video, no problem.
And you're not alone. That's a lot of people.
Yeah.
There's a lot of people who can't necessarily give that large chunk of time, to a feature or. And that's why a lot of times you might sit down and watch like 5 episodes of The Office.
Yeah.
Even though it's longer than the feature you would have watched, it's in these digestible little chunks. So
little nuggets.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So you're like, I can sit here and watch Steve Carell for 4 hours, but
and not really.
But you never think you be honest, you never think you're going in for 4 hours. You think you're going in for an hour at the most, and then 6 hours later.
2 episodes, and then you're like, 6 episodes
after
later.
2 times where Netflix is like, "Are you still watching?" And you're like, "Obviously."
Yeah,
yes.
exactly. Quit calling me out.
Stop
Netflix.
judging me, Netflix.
But yeah, for sure, it's definitely that weird. A lot of people like are familiar with short films now. I definitely feel like with the internet and YouTube, people are familiar with the format, but I don't think people still understand it as an art form.
And it's especially people around here.
Oh
yeah,
it's like one of the things that really drew me to wanting to do a podcast with you guys is you guys are, I'm kind of young into this creative process. We just started back in December. And you guys already are out there getting your Kickstarter goals or whatever. You're out there entering into film festivals. But it's so different being a creator in a small town.
Yeah.
As opposed to being out there with everybody else. Because with me, I say I do a podcast, and 9 times out of 10, the next question is, what is that?
Right. Yeah. And, well, it is different, but it's also awesome because there's benefits, and you have, because of the internet, it's like no one knows, like, who's listening to you, your fans. They don't know the difference, you know what I mean? It's not like, to them it doesn't matter like where the podcast comes from or like where we're based out of. If we can build like a solid fan base through the internet, to those people, they're just hungry for like really good content, and solid stories and interesting podcasts with interesting guests and stuff like that. So it's like the internet's definitely leveled the playing field in that way. But you walk, hanging out around town, you're definitely going to run into that. People are going to be like, what? Why are you doing a podcast? Kind of like, why? Some people might think like, what's the point? Like, why make this short film? Like, are you making money at it? It's like, well, that's not the goal really. The goal is to create something, to make some kind of art, put it out there, to build a following, to build a fan base with it. And it always ends up coming back to us and helping our business grow. The commercial side of our business has always grown because of the creative side. And they're really both kind of one and the same.
Like, money's good and all that, but really what the real payoff is making a film that moves people or releasing a podcast that really gets people laughing.
100%.
I mean, I think too, we could be working every single day and only doing, the commercial stuff and, trying to seek out any and all projects and not bring any creativity to it. But, at the end of the day, we've created this job for ourselves and we don't want it to be to a point where we like absolutely hate it, So, that was us going into creating Sozo Bear Films, where we're like, if we're filmmakers, we need to be making films. Like, we can't just start a company, have films in the title, and then never make another short film or creative, series or anything like that. And, that's the one thing that I'm, really happy and glad that we're able to, do that. Where each year, any opportunity we have, we can like really focus in on okay, what's our next movie? What's the creative aspect that we could bring to the stocky promo, music video, commercial? It's really a blessing to be able to be creative each and every day.
I want to go back to Aliens real quick,
Okay.
just because Encounters is your big thing right here. So what do y'all think about aliens, huh?
Like, are they real?
Are they real? Y'all storming Area 51?
No. I did listen to Bob Lazar on Joe Rogan, though, and I mean, that he seemed like 100% legit. Like, I just, nothing about what he was saying felt like he was a liar to me, and he's like this guy who worked for S4, which is what everyone confuses for Area 51. I mean, he sounds like legitimately like he's worked on alien technology, and then I watched his documentary, which has come out recently too, and same thing, man. It was just like so believable. Prior to that, I was probably like, I don't know, maybe yes or no. I think that given the size of the universe, there's definitely a good chance that there's something out there, and there's probably a good reason where the sort of myth came from, where these stories came from. I imagine they came from something, not just someone made it up one day.
Have you been, I was wondering if you guys have been gathering any inspiration from all this storming Area 51 nonsense.
Maybe not inspiration, but we're definitely like, we're trying to figure out we need to make a meme of our own, but...
Because I'd love to see a film about what happens if they do get in.
Yeah.
Like one of my favorite memes I've seen so far, and I have a massive folder I've just collected of these Area 51 memes. I don't know why, they just make me laugh. It's like when you get by the guards fine, and then they let my homeboy out, and it's just a picture of the Predator, arms wide open, screaming.
Yeah, I don't know. That's a good idea for like a movie though. Of like, what if this actually happened and it really did exist. I think for me, like with aliens, I'm probably a little bit more on the skeptical side.
That's because you didn't listen to the podcast,
I did,
dude.
and he's been calling me out on the podcast about it. But yeah, I don't know. It's like I just love the science fiction of it, but something in me is like, I don't know if I fully believe, but I love aliens as pop culture figures, and obviously to make a series like this.
It's like Steven Spielberg used to be like a hardcore believer, and now he's not. But that's probably because the government got to him and told him to stop talking about it.
See, I won't get into it, but I got my own conspiracy theories and thinking of it as things in the spiritual realm.
Yeah. See, I think that's definitely a thing too.
That's
something that I've considered a lot as well, for sure.
But I definitely think I think there's something out there. I think anytime anybody's like, oh, I've been abducted and they, done messed up my cornrows and
my corn.
like not Eminem back in the 90s, but old Farmer Jim with his corn.
Crop circles.
Yeah, crop circles. Yeah. That's the term. Thank you.
I just imagine what like Damon Wayans or something with cornrows and one sticking straight up. Like,
the aliens came.
Yeah,
the
aliens messed up.
The aliens messed up my cornrows. But I don't know. Aliens is always something that's been interesting to everybody because it's just the unknown.
Mm-hmm. And the History Channel can show ancient aliens 24/7.
History Channel can show anything they want to, and nobody's gonna watch it still.
Yeah,
what? True. Y'all got anything that you want to say? Any plugs or anything? Plugs being like social media where we can follow you.
You can find us at Sozo Bear Films, on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, Vimeo, or www.sozobearfilms.com.
Yeah. I was trying to think if we had anything like new coming up that we were promoting, but we recently had Night at the Movies and the Encounters fundraiser.
We have a film festival that we put on. Typically happens every spring, so we just did that in May.
But that's something that if you're a filmmaker, you know, to be on the lookout for, because we'll be opening submissions for next year's at some point, you know. So always be on the lookout for that. Or if you're an actor, you know, be on the lookout for casting calls. We're always looking for new talent.
And we'll definitely, you'll get a few of our fan base hitting you up in that, because a lot of my fans dabble in the acting world.
Cool.
Yeah.
Awesome.
But one last thing before we go, I just looked up at the poster, and I wanted to ask, so which one of you was the inspiration for the anti-fart formula?
Well,
I don't think it's based on us, hopefully. But it is a funny story.
Yeah.
We wrote it with Ryan Littman, our actor, who plays. He's the lead. 3 of our films. He's been in a lot of our work, but he's the main character in the amazing anti-fart formula. And we sat down and we wanted to write something. We wanted to write a comedy. We wanted to write something funny and co-write it with him. It started out as like a story about a guy who starts taking these like anti-fart pills, and his stomach grows like crazy.
It almost becomes pregnant.
Yeah, almost pregnant looking. It was just like really like insane, slapstick almost. And kind of, I guess the ending idea was like he ends up like farting and like blowing this girl like out of the bed, essentially, you know. And that was the kind of basis of us like writing the story, which ended up being kind of a heartfelt comedy, really. Like there's like really a lot of, that's why we called it like, you know, we said, you know, fart from your heart was the tagline, and we called it a comedy with a fart comedy with a lot of heart or something like that. But when we were in there like working on it, the funniest part was just my wife just poking her head into the room and being like, what in the world are you guys writing? Because like all she's hearing is the word fart like 100 times in a row, and I was just dying laughing like 12-year-olds writing a movie.
Do y'all have like fun while y'all are writing? Or is it more like grueling?
No, I mean it's both, right? It's like it's a lot of fun, and then it's sometimes we're like if we start racking our brains, that usually means we should do something else. Yeah, like go for a walk, or maybe the good thing is that we have this like whole business to like run. So we're like, well, we've got like 10 different projects we could edit right now, so let's work on one of those, and then we can come back to the writing and kind of write for a little while.
Like my favorite thing is just me and Luke just throwing ideas. I think we're really good at just, you know, being able to kill ideas, or one of us be like, that's
the best thing when like you and somebody else like are almost on the same level throwing ideas out.
We'll say things at the same time, and it's like we're like
my buddy Caleb Sosby and I used to write skits for our kids' church. And we would be running on top of tables, just yelling ideas at each other, getting so excited, like
that
just
awesome.
Making it better and better.
But it is fun, and like the main thing is like we have to be willing to throw the idea away, and we have to be willing to explore it too, you know. So it's like if you like are gonna co-write with someone, you got to make sure that they're willing to explore any idea that you throw out, and then also be willing to just like can that idea if it's terrible. If it's their idea or your idea, it doesn't matter. Like and they also have to be like, you know, level-headed enough, and you guys got to see eye to eye, and you have to not care about who's going to get credit for that idea or whatever. It's got to be like you got to have the freedom to just create in that space.
It's all about like leaving your ego at the door for sure. And you know, and it's funny, like people will ask us like, oh, who came up with this idea, or who came up with what, you know, who wrote what in this movie, and it's like to a point where we don't remember, because it's just it is Sozo Bear Films, you know. Just kind of got to a point where it doesn't matter, and we honestly can't remember. You know, we're not just trying to be nice and you know, to say it's both of us, but honestly it's it turns into both of us.
Yeah, we're not like keeping a tally of who had the best idea last.
All right, well, guys, this has been a great podcast. I love getting to hear a little bit about, a little more about Encounters, a little more about the behind the scenes of Sozo Bear films. Sadly, I thought I was going to meet Sozo or Bear, so I'm disappointed. But
Sozo's upstairs.
Yeah.
If we can catch her.
But I guess there's nothing left to it other than... This has been the Confound Millennial, episode 67, starring Steven Stirvin Michaels, featuring Luke Pilgrim and Brad... Please tell me it's Kennedy.
Yes.
Kennedy, I got it right, yes!
I'm tired of these confound millennials.